Hello, my name's James Hunter, and this is my 2 cents channel where I talk about topics from physical fitness, mental health, wellness topics, and just topics I may want to discuss. And today I'm going to talk about the benefits of resistance training, or weight training, if you will, and also some of the common myths that are out there. I'm going to talk about those issues. So let's get right to it. First on my list is increase muscular strength, because who doesn't want to be stronger, right? I can recall as earlier in my life when I was in the ninth grade, I had a football coach, and before we would lift weights, he would always say, "Who the hell doesn't want to be stronger?" Right? Trying to motivate us. But he had a point. Most people I know, if they have an option or a choice to be stronger, they're going to go with being stronger. Okay. Number 2 on my list: increased muscular endurance. This is really important, and I'm just going to give a quick example. At 48 years old, 48 and a half. I do things. I'm very physically active. I built a fence earlier this week, and is around the perimeter of my property. I expanded the yard area, if you will, as far as what's enclosed. And it was a pretty significant area. I'm talking digging 3 feet holes in the ground manually with a post hole digger, carrying around 80-pound bags of Quickcrete, and just a lot of bending and climbing and 2x4s, you name it, the post. You get the idea for those of you who have done physical labor and built fence. So being able to work, sustain physical work for longer periods of time because of muscular endurance. The drill in some instances where I had the certain gates I made, having to turn the wrenches and do certain things without having to stop and take breaks, made me more efficient, if you will, being able to get this done. So a lot of things in your life, well, you'll be more efficient at, or you just get things done better when you have more muscular endurance, specific just to activities of daily living. I gave one example, but there could be other things. Climbing stairs is something as simple as that. So muscular endurance is going to help with sports. Obviously, for athletes, that's important. So let's move on to number 3 on the list: increased lean body mass, right? So a lot of guys and ladies too, they want to see an improve in their muscle tone. And the guys, if for any other reason, they'll get in the gym because they want to, build themselves up. They want to build their muscles up. And if anything, to look good, regardless of how strong they get, right? Sometimes it can just be vanity or aesthetics, or just, they want to look good when they go out. For others, the increase in lean body mass, it's going to help in performance as far as certain sports and so on. So the increased lean body mass, we talk about nutrition. You hear a lot about that, and nutrition is important. But make no mistake, without the mechanical stress to the body, the resistance training, that is the stimulus that's going to get the body to produce the adaptations, the muscular adaptations, to grow and repair and come back stronger, okay? So number 4 on the list is an increase in metabolic efficiency, which is, related to the increase in lean body mass, okay? So muscle tissue basically is more metabolically active. So if it's more metabolically active, it's going to require more energy and more calories, if you will, simply put. So the outcome of increasing lean body mass, or having more muscle, does make you more efficient overall. It helps to help make you more efficient at burning calories. So with an increase in metabolic efficiency, you're going to be more efficient at breaking down energy substrates such as fats and carbs. Protein is the last thing your body will ever go after. Usually if you're someone who's starving to death, or extreme bouts of exercise where a person didn't eat enough or get enough calories from carbs, for example. But typically, I'm going on a little tangent there about the bioenergetic system of the body. But yeah, increased metabolic efficiency. If you're eating appropriately, basically just think of it in terms of like, hey, I'm breaking down anaerobically and oxidatively. I'm going to be more efficient at breaking down carbs and fats, right? We think a lot about that. And then the other metabolic functions that are important in the body, when I think about metabolism, are going to benefit as well, which is good for our health and just our efficiency as the physical body. So the last one on the list here, as an increase in self-confidence, self-esteem, and you're harder to kill. So I put harder to kill on there because I see that on social media as some of the benefits of working out is that, yeah, you're harder to kill. And, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, I'm bigger and stronger, so it's going to be harder to kill me. So it's a bit of a joke, but in all seriousness, it's not a joke because, yeah, if you're stronger, you are going to be more efficient as far as having to defend yourself and so on. But let's just think about practical things in life, particularly to people as you age and get older. One of the most common examples that's out there are people who never did any type of strength and conditioning. They're totally deconditioned, atrophy, sarcopenia. The body is just, they're more vulnerable, if you will, because they're weak. We can talk about bone mineral density. The bones are not as strong as they used to be. Lack of muscle endurance, lack of muscle strength, so their gait becomes unstable. They slip and have a fall, they break a hip, and then they die. A broken hip can be all downhill for a lot of old people. And when I say elderly or older people, it doesn't have to be somebody in their late 70s or 80s, or hell, you can see people in their 50s, 60s, early 60s. That's not that old, really. I'm 48 and a half. So, 50 is not too far away from me. And I don't think of 50 and even in the mid 50s and in that area is not old. It's middle age as far as I'm concerned if you take care of yourself. But I know people my age, I know people in the 50s who have had injuries and accidents due to being out of shape. And it was the lack of having strength and conditioning, lack of muscular strength, if you will, which is ties into a lot of things, balance, coordination. If you don't have that, it's going to affect the others. So yeah, they fall off a boat and that fall results in a broken neck, and they fall in the water, they drown, right? A more physically fit person may not have fell. I know another person, they fell off a boat into the water. They were not strong enough to pull themselves back up in the boat, and they got tired and they ended up drowning in one situation like that. So down here where I put harder to kill, it's actually it's for real. I mean, it's in certain practical situations, it's not a joke. It really can save your life. There's been people taking a flight of stairs in a fire because the elevator went out. So they're going down the stairs and they have a heart attack, right? So we're talking about muscular endurance, and also it has to do with cardiovascular fitness as well. But it's an example of not being physically fit and end up dying as a result of that prematurely before you had to. So there's a lot more examples basically where you're less likely to have an injury that could result in death. Perhaps maybe a nicer way of saying it. Okay, so let's get into some of the myths about resistance training or weight training. Myth number one: if not used, muscles will turn to fat. So that's pretty ridiculous. And technically we're always using our muscles. So specific, if to working out, if you quit working out, your muscles are just going to turn to fat, right? So there's always that guy out there who's out of shape and has every excuse in the book for why they don't work out. And so they have all these bullshit things they want to say to be dismissive. And I've heard it with a lot of ignorant people. They'll say, well, if you just lift weights and build your muscles, what's the point? As soon as you stop, the muscles turn to fat. Well, let's go ahead and tackle this myth right here, okay? First of all, muscle and fat are different types of body tissue, and one of these body tissues cannot directly convert into the other. It doesn't work that way. So what happens are you have different variables and processes, things that are happening. So yeah, with increase in muscle mass, or hypertrophy or hypertrophy. I always mess that up, and I maybe need to drink some more water. But essentially, you have an increase in muscle size, right? Cross-sectional muscle. So what happens is if you quit working out, then you're going to end up having an atrophy. The opposite, the muscle will get smaller, okay? So you can see that situation happen with people who build themselves up and they quit going to the gym, and you haven't seen them in 3 or 4 years, and maybe they're not eating like they used to, as healthy as they did, and so on. So yeah, they have a lot less muscle, and now they may be fat, right? They've stored more body fat now because they're just in a positive energy balance, eating foods that they're not burning off, so they've gained weight and they're fat. So somebody could make a connection in their mind and correlate that and say, well, see, the muscle went down and now he has fat. One became the other. Well, we know that's not true. What happened is that a person gained body fat and lost muscle. Two different things happening, but not directly related. And likewise, you know, if you're losing body fat, I do it whenever I train for a contest. I get down to about 4% body fat. I'll increase my muscularity. And these are things that are going on at the same time, but these are different body tissues, that different situations. So yeah, you know, muscles do not turn to fat, simply put. Just like there's no such thing as spot reduction. I can't do sit-ups, and that's going to burn fat on my stomach. Fat loss is cumulative throughout the entire body. So you may notice some people who are overweight, they start losing weight. You'll notice the arms and the face start looking thinner, but they still got that, you know, stomach they're working on, and they kind of get frustrated. They're like, man, I notice my legs are not touching no more, they're not rubbing, but I still got this stomach. And in all actuality, their stomach's going down. But because that's where they carry or store more body fat, it's just a much more of a process for it to go down more significantly. It takes a bit more, and we tend to store more body fat in the stomach area. So anyway, that's kind of related to it, how people kind of make these connections or these ways of thinking that are not true, and they're myths. So myth number 2 on this list: consuming large amounts of protein supplements will increase muscle size and strength. You know, in consuming large amounts of protein supplements, or just more amounts of protein from food. So, you know, I grew up hearing the rule of thumb that, you know, you need to have at least 1 gram per pound of body weight, you know, and that was kind of the rule you would hear a lot of in different magazines. And there's a lot of videos out there on YouTube. People have their opinions on this, and I'm not going to make this video debating what's the exact amount, because I believe human beings are variable, and there's a lot of things to take into consideration. A person like me right now weigh 161 pounds. So if I choose to have 161 grams of protein every day, that's a lot different than someone who weighs 265, who's wanting to maintain that weight, and they're going to get 265 grams of protein every day, and, you know, times carbs are 4 calories a gram. So look at the higher amounts of calories they're taking in, and yeah, they're a bigger individual, but still, it's more calories. And if you're not necessarily assimilating or using all that for the purpose of building or maintaining the muscle you currently have, then it's kind of like spilling over. It's excess calories. You can store it, and it end up getting more body fat, essentially, that you may not want to have. So the RDA, and I'm going to read off some information here as far as for the average person. I'm not talking about athletes. So the average person needs to get approximately at least 15 to 20% of total calories should be consumed from protein-rich foods. And that's according to the RDA for protein is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. Now, that's the average Joe Smo, not an athlete or a person working out. Athletes, however, may need to consume more protein. Now, I'm reading these suggestions that I looked up. So I'm not saying this is necessarily what I do for myself, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. So athletes may need to consume more protein, as much as 1.2 up to 1.7 grams per kilogram of. So basically, a little bit more than every 2 pounds of body weight to get up to 1.7 grams. So if you're a 165-pound guy, that would be about 128 grams of protein, which may not seem like a lot, right? But I'll tell you this, when I trained for the MPC Battle in the Bay contest earlier this year, I competed in June, and I did pretty good. I placed in 3 divisions. And there's another video I have on here about my results. And I was muscular, and I about 4% body fat, and I looked good, and at 48 years old, and I know I wasn't eating I wasn't consuming rather my body weight equivalent to my body weight in grams of protein every day. I just know I wasn't. I was eating throughout the entire day. I was getting my chicken breast, fish, some cottage cheese sometimes, lean ground turkey, of course, a lot of squash, green beans, and my typical prep meal types of foods some of you may be familiar with that are eaten. My diet's pretty basic, and I supplement minerals like calcium, magnesium, and other stuff when I'm on a low-calorie diet, and that's another video I may do. So anyways, my point is, I didn't lose any muscle. I maintained, and I looked really good, and I did it without consuming the equivalent of my body weight in grams of protein. I know I didn't. Some days I might get like 161 grams of protein. That's what I weigh right now. But a lot of days I don't, and I don't lose any muscle. I maintain my size. So I think it's relative to the individual, the demand you place on your body. So on my rest day, if I'm not working out, do I need to get a gram of protein per pound of body weight for me and my needs? So it just depends on the person. I've heard some numbers as high as 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Now, if you're a 250-pound guy, I mean, that's a shitload of protein and extra calories to be having to eat every day, every single day for these individuals. And if you don't have the energy expenditure every day, you're not utilizing and burning that, yeah, you could potentially, now you're going to be storing excess body fat as a result because you're not able to use all that. So there's a lot more that can be said on that, and there's a lot of videos on that. I have my opinions. Regardless of how big I let myself get, I've weighed as much as 180 pounds on my frame. That's a lot. I'm 161 right now. So think of me 180 and not fat. That's pretty big on my bone structure. And I didn't have to eat excessive amounts of protein to do that. So, all right, myth number 3, resistance training will make a person muscle bound or inflexible. So this is I've heard people say, you muscle-bound people, you don't have no flexibility. Well, we know that's not true. If you look at gymnasts, they're very muscular, and they're some of the most flexible people in the world. And in fact, resistance training programs, ones that are where you do the exercises performed within the full range of motion, actually is going to help with flexibility. And what you will see is that people that are new to exercising and they begin resistance training, doing the full range, performing movements within full range of motion, what you will see is actually an increase in flexibility. It improves. It's not the other way around, where they say you become inflexible. That's not true. So I want to use an example of special populations, people with special needs. I've had clients with cerebral palsy. Now, individuals who have cerebral palsy have a risk of getting permanent contractures of the muscles. What happens is, as they age and get older, especially if they have lack of stimulation of using the body within full range of motion type of movements or patterns, if you will get permanent contractures. So the bicep, for example, over time, that muscle will shorten and stay permanently contracted. So then they lose the ability to fully extend the arm out like it used to. This can happen with the limbs, the arms and legs. So as they age, they can end up with permanent contractures where they just can't even extend the arm out fully anymore. And same thing with the legs. And this happens as part of having a cerebral palsy. So, like I've had, as I mentioned, I had clients with cerebral palsy. Resistance training performed within full range of motion is excellent for them. It helps prevent permanent contractures if they remain active and they do exercises throughout their life. If they're performing the lat pull down, the high row lat pull down, if you will, rows, curls within full range of motion, tricep press downs, as appropriate, all the other exercises, the squat, leg extension, leg curl, heck, deadlift. I've had clients with cerebral palsy do a lot of things that's impressive considering that they do have a special need there that they have to work around. So these full range of motion type of exercises with resistance training preserves their flexibility and range of motion, not the opposite, not the other way. So this myth that resistance training makes a person inflexible is simply not true. All right, it's more about performing the movements and the full range of motion, and yes, stretching and those things being part of your program helps as well. Myth number 4, resistance training will cause females to get large muscles like men. Now, if I had a nickel for every time a female or a lady, a woman told me, I'm afraid to lift weights because I'm gonna get big like a guy. I'm gonna have muscles like a man, right? And it's this, I've heard this so many times. It's almost like I have my reply, but it's like a script that I just tell them everything, and as far as that they should not have any fears as far as lifting weights, because all these benefits up here that I mentioned earlier in the video, qualitatively, the benefits are the same for men and women from a qualitative standpoint. Both men and women can expect an increase in muscular strength. Both men and women can expect increased muscular endurance. And yes, women can also expect an increase in a lean muscle mass, but they'll tone, but they're not going to get as big as a guy, okay? They can expect an increase in metabolic efficiency and, the self-esteem and being harder to kill too. So check this out though. Here's the difference. The differences are quantitative between men and women. So while qualitatively women can expect all these benefits from resistance training, weight training, if you will, they will not get as big as a guy in terms of having the muscularity as a man. And those are quantitative differences that are due to hormone differences. Women don't have testosterone to the degree men have. Men have a lot more testosterone compared to women. Women may have a little bit. I had one female client that they couldn't barely even trace any testosterone in her. She was an older lady. And so anyways, even women who have, as compared to the female general population, maybe outliers where they are kind of like do have higher than normal testosterone levels as compared to other women. That happens. But even those women it doesn't even come close to have as much testosterone as most men have, especially young men. So those differences for women who are natural, not taking drugs, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I don't care how hard they work out and how good they eat, while they're going to get these benefits and they're going to look better, look good, and look athletic and be fit, they're not going to get as big as a man. They're not going to get as physically as large and as muscular as a man can get in terms of the quantitative differences, the size, if you will, the strength. That's not going to happen. So don't fear that for you ladies and women that are out there who you don't want to look like a guy, right? So I'm going to put a link in this video below about another video where I talk about this very issue about women's concerns with what's realistic and what can be expected. So let me get to the heart of the issue of this matter here of women thinking they're going to get big like a guy. The fact of the matter is you have women, some may be professional athletes, some may be so-called fitness celebrities. I use the word fitness loosely with them, but that they are very muscular and they are comparable to men. I mean, there's every bit as big as a lot of men and bigger than men. They have the big arms, the deltoids, their legs are freaking huge, and they're very vascular, and they're very low body fat, like 4%, 5% body fat, while having all that muscle comparable to a man, okay? And they also talk like a man. So here's the deal. I'm going to explain why. They're able to do this because they're taking anabolic agents or drugs, a lot of times androgenic anabolic steroids. And by androgenic, I mean, it means male characteristics, and then anabolic tissue building, muscle building. So when women who already have good genetics, who are already pretty fit naturally, get on testosterone or steroid, what happens is it's like they're going through puberty, so their voice gets deeper. So if it's a telltale sign. You see a woman in a matter of 6 to 8 weeks put on this dramatically transform 10, 15 pounds of muscle, in a short period of time, and their voice changes and gets deeper. That's not protein shakes, okay? That's a change in hormones that they're taking drugs. That change in the voice, by the way, is a permanent side effect. Even if they stop taking androgenic anabolic steroids and they lose the muscle size, they still retain that deep voice, and they really can't change that unless they have surgery to correct it. So anyways, to stay on point is with this myth here about the women getting big like men. The women that are out there that are that extreme, they're not representative of you if your goal is to be healthy, fit, and to do this naturally, okay? So when you see that, just put it into another category. They don't represent you. For all purposes, they're equivalent to men from a chemistry standpoint or hormone standpoint because they're putting drugs in their bodies. So that's why they're like that. It's not from the weight training turned them into men. That's a bunch of crap. And it actually bothers me that a lot of women do get turned off from an otherwise very healthy activity of resistance training, weight training, because of misrepresentations from women who do this. And anyways, you can watch my other video on that topic on the link below. So, all right, last but not least on this list is resistance training is only for athletes, okay? So the truth of the matter is like, yeah, a lot of people get introduced to resistance training because of sports, weight training. I know I did. Well, I started lifting weights when I was 12, about 12 and a half, and then in the 7th grade, I formally began a weight training program because I was playing football. So because of sports, that got me really involved in weight training, but you don't have to be an athlete. You know, both athletes and non-athletes can get all these benefits that I've gone over in this video, okay? So you talk about improving your quality of life, right? I gave the example of building a fence earlier. You know, what about climbing a flight of stairs? The ability to get out of your car without wrenching your knees because you understand proper mechanics and how to place your feet and how to squat up, right? Having strength in your legs to where you don't throw your back out because you overuse the back, right? And so on. So having proper strength and conditioning allows you to use good posture when you do things. It's a protective factor, so you're less likely to have accidents and injuries. So whether you're an athlete or not, you know, muscular strength, increased muscular strength, increased muscular endurance, increased lean body mass are protective factors that will improve the quality of your life. So I would encourage anyone out there, or those of you who may be thinking about beginning weight training, maybe you've never lifted a weight in your life. Maybe you're middle age. You never played sports. Perhaps you were in the marching band, which is nothing wrong with that. I love music. Maybe you were in choir. I was also in choir, but I also played football and ran track and field. So, or you did other extracurricular activities, but you didn't do any type of weight training. So it kind of really wasn't your thing. So here you are later in life, and you're starting to recognize that you're getting older. Your body may be changing. Things are not as easy as they used to be. Well, here's the good news. You can do something about it. You can have all these benefits. You're not too old to start lifting weights. I know a lot of guys, ladies, who started getting involved in fitness in their late 30s, early 40s, some in their 50s, and they transformed themselves into completely different people, and their quality of life just accelerated, became awesome as far as what they're able to do, how they're able to enjoy things, and so on. So it's not too late, and you don't have to, have a sport or to be an athlete as a motivation. Maybe you might get interested in doing a 5K or running a half marathon. Maybe you might actually find that, hey, I want to try a sport now because you have more confidence, and I've seen that happen too. But even if you don't, you don't need that, because health is the first wealth, as I said, and good health is its own reward. So I hope this video has been helpful as far as starting to think about some of the benefits of resistance training. And there's more. I just kind of listed these up here from some of the resources that I use. I'm a member of the NSCA, National Strength and Conditioning Association, and I read a lot of their journals of research and so on. And there's other research you can do as far as the literature and information that's out there. And these myths, well, you can find those out there too. I just listed 5 today. If you'd subscribe to my channel, I really appreciate it, the support. My goal is to get up to 1,000 subscribers. And either way, I'm going to continue to produce content on this channel, and my goal is to make better quality content and production of videos as I go on doing this. And I'll continue to make topics in the area of wellness, mental health, physical fitness. You may have a suggestion, drop one below, and other topics of interest. So until I make another video, I hope you have a good day, and I hope this video got you to think, and if maybe it answered some questions or made you feel a little bit better about beginning working out, then like the video below. And if you have something that's maybe a bit different opinion, maybe I didn't mention it, I'd like to hear from you too. Drop it below in the comment. You take care and have a nice day. Thank you.